Here we go. And we are just about live. Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Eddie Gray here. Here we go. Very happy to be here on this edition of Logic Pro User Guide and Tutorial. We have been covering the entire Logic tutorial at length. If you've ever really wanted to learn this program and learn it in such a way where you understand every idea and you have a clean workflow, you're experiencing efficiency and you're just ready to really take it to another level, then stay tuned because we're about to cover the Logic User Guide and Tutorial. We're going to be covering unpacking take folders. So if you've never utilized this feature, it's really nice. And then after that, we get into the next chapter, which is covering loops. If you want to learn how to really utilize the loop browser, sifting through loops, now's your opportunity. You ready? Here we go. Okie dokie. So welcome back. Here's what we're doing. We are covering the Logic User Guide. We are currently, no joke, on page 276. We've been doing this 6 days a week. We're going hard. We're learning so many details. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here. If you want to support the channel, all I ask is that you sub, you share. Now let's get into it. Here we go. So we're going to unpack folders. We know how to now create take folders. This is something that we have learned just recently, but now we kind of need to take it a step further. When we have our composites, when we have our various takes, how do we actually take this a step further? So the way that we're going to take this a step further is that we're going to unpack these in different ways. So I've gone ahead and I've created a take folder for us so that we can work with. And so it says here that both methods replace the selected take folder or take folders with new audio tracks. So let's try out this methodology and see exactly how this concept of unpacking take folders can help us. The first audio track or track alternative reflects the active comp. So in other words, you are always going to have like a major composite. So this is like a decision that you make in order to create the very best take possible. And then after that, you have all the various takes that are contained within that comp. So let's get into it. We're going to unpack a take folder. How do we do this? We can either control click the take folder, or you could choose unpack from the take folder pop-up menu. So let's try out choose unpack from the take folder pop-up menu. We go inside of Logic. Here I have this kind of put together take folder. And so I'm going to click on A. And so this A signifies the comp that is currently on the screen. Now, I haven't really done any comping. We covered this extensively. So if you really want to learn how to select the very best performances from various tracks, then you really have to learn take comping. You can check out the last video for that. But for right now, what we're going to do is we're going to click right up here, and we can see that this is the main composite. All right, let's say you actually wanted to unpack all of these takes. Let's see what happens. I'm going to hit Shift Command U. And so let me bring you in to show you all the details here. Okay. So we've created a composite, right? A little bit of take one, a little bit of take two, and then now we're just at the end of this process, and we're thinking that we're going to unpack these tracks. So where are they going to go? Let me just kind of delete all this stuff. Let's see where all of this information goes. So we're going to click there, go to unpack, and Logic will then create, in this case, a bunch of different audio tracks and unpack them. We know that we can also do something similar with MIDI. So this is one technique. Let's say you have a session tonight, you track a vocalist, guitar player, what have you. They do 7 different takes. Maybe you want to use take 1 and take 2 for backup vocals. So then you would unpack this. You take these 2 tracks and you separate them. I'll just put them in a track stack for now. Shift Command D gives me that. And then after, you could now do your take folder with these takes. So it just depends how you want to do this. But there's some functionality there that could work for you. So the goal here is that we find your proper workflow. I've been saying this. I think it's the only way to really learn this program. We have to find what works for you. So that's option A. Let's see if there's anything else for you here, okay? So see, the other way to do this is you control click the take folder header area, then choose folder. Okay, so we go up here, select folder, and then you have kind of another item set that you can choose here. The only issue is folder. So right here, they're referring to, it says the unpack take folder. They're saying control click the take folder header area. So you're with me in Logic, and I would assume, as this is the track header, that would mean right up here. So we go to folder. Again, these have been dimmed. We go back here. So unless we start using actual diagrams to explain this, this becomes kind of really challenging. We know that this is the track header. I mean, that's the official term. So we don't see that option here. Then you would think, okay, well, let me go to the actual track somewhere up here. And again, we're not getting that menu set. So, you know, I have said this before that I do think that sometimes this just needs to be updated. So I'm control clicking everywhere just to make sure. So it seems like this is something that needs to be rectified at some point. I'll try one last thing. I'll open up the actual take. Again, we see an option to unpack the takes into new tracks and existing tracks. So let's try that out. Hold on. All right, so there it is right there. So that's one way to do it. Let me just try that one more time here. We go folder. Okay, good. And so there it is right there. Awesome. So 2 ways to open that up. Let's keep it going. All right. So again, at the very top, you've got all the various composites. You can create new composites. You can change them. You can rename the comps. Here are all the takes within the composite. So just think of that hierarchy, okay? You can flatten. We went through all of this yesterday. You can flatten and merge. We still yet to learn the difference between exporting an active comp and yet moving an active comp. We now know what it means to unpack. We just did that. And then obviously if we unpack to new tracks, Logic will create new tracks. And then now here we have unpack to new track alternatives. So that's kind of another menu set there. So let's see what that looks like. Let's see if we get the option to do that. Okay, cool. So then now what Logic does is it nests every single take inside of track alternatives. So you can see option A, B, C, D. And so this is another way to utilize this great feature. All right, let's keep going. So it says here, these commands use the original channel strip for all new tracks. All takes and comps, with the exception of the currently active comp, are muted. All right, so we know that this is the behavior of comping. This ensures that playback results remain unchanged. Any edits made to one of these tracks are reflected in all the others. These commands use the original channel strip for all new tracks. Okay, so what they're saying here is when you unpack that there's some behavior there that we need to look at. Let me hit Command Z. Let me go back here. All right, so if we click there, unpack folders to existing tracks. So Based on what they said, I don't see. Okay, good. All right, there it is right there. So this becomes kind of one track. It's almost like a different way of looking at take folders. You can see that when I mute one track, it mutes all of them. And when I solo one track and move the volume fader, same goes for the panorama knob, it moves all of them at the same time. So the reason that that's happening is because it's using the original channel strip for all new tracks. So let's highlight that. That's a good thing to note. Again, why would you do this? You don't like the take folder. You don't like the quick swipe comping feature. This gives you another way of looking at the tracks. So now, for example, I think the workflow would feel a little bit clunky, but it would look something like this. M gives me the mute tool. Maybe I'll mute everything except this track right here. So I'll listen to it. And let's say you're like, yeah, I don't like this part. Okay, I'm going to delete that. Hold on, I have something on that's affecting the regions and how they move. 1 second. Okay, so again, I'm here. I delete that. So then you're like, yeah, I like this part. Let me unmute the second track. I know I'm not going to want this. But so again, this is just another way of looking at the audio. I personally use take folders. We're just entertaining these ideas to see if maybe perhaps there's something here for you. So let's check this out. Right? So again, if I go back to just the concept of take folders, you could do this, really quickly, right? Without really having to think much about it. Especially if you check out the Snap Quick Swipe comping. So you know that in my curriculum, when I teach this, I've talked to a lot of people that if you use the Snap to Grid system, that essentially anytime you make a selection, anytime you make an edit, you move any MIDI event regions, that basically you're doing it with complete precision every single time. And so that's what I want for you. I would love for you to be able to take hold of the program and command it at will the way you want it to, right? Have it serve you and not have it be the other way around when you're at its mercy. Like, Logic, why are you doing this again? So those days can be over, but you have to learn the program. Okay. All right. So unpacking a take folder to new tracks. So we already did that. It says here that this second feature, choose unpack to new tracks from the take folder pop-up menu, affects only the selected take folder, not all take folders. Okay, so I think what they mean there is, how sometimes you do a vocal track or something and there's various, like the verses here and maybe like, the chorus is there or what have you. So it's only going to affect the selected take folders. So unpack to new tracks. For example, if I select the middle take folder here, unpack to new tracks, that's Control Shift Command U. All right, you can see that these were not affected. Me at Command Z, I'm curious if I select everything, if I hit Command A rather, and then I select the same track, I'm curious to see what happens here. So again, good stuff here, right? They're calling it down the middle. Everything is lining up. I love it. And we should probably highlight that. That's, I think, an important thing right there. This one I already knew. Okay, let's keep going. These commands use different channel strips for each new track, but automatically assigns the original channel strip setting to all of them. None of the takes or comps is muted. Edits can be made to each track. Okay, so this is wild because now these key commands are providing new outcomes, right? We know that with this first initial set of key commands, which was choose unpack from the take, which was unpack, and wait, was there one more? No, it's right before this. Hold on. Yeah, right up here. So depending on which ones you use, it's going to change the behavior of these key commands. So if we use unpack to new tracks. Wait, did I miss one? Choose unpack. No, just unpack. This is going to create one channel strip essentially for all of the various takes. This is just if you use unpack. So let me hit Command Z a couple times. Okay, good. Again, we're here. We go to just unpack. I make a decision. Okay, those are all being controlled by the same channel strip. We go into the next section. It says if you go into unpack new tracks, it's only going to select the take folders, as we mentioned, and then they start talking about the channel strip. So in this case, Logic will use different channel strips, but automatically assigns the original channel strip to the settings of them all. So let's go ahead and try unpack to new tracks. Okay, let's try it out again. Okay, so it seems like everything is separated. Let's go into the mixer key command X. Again, I'll hit M. Yeah, so everything is now independent. So if you would like to control all of the tracks with one channel strip, you're going to want to use unpack. And if you want them to now be independent for individual processing, then you should choose unpack to new tracks. Okay, and just to be clear, we can see that I'm instantiating an EQ by itself, a compressor by itself, so on and so forth. All right, here we go. These commands use different channel strips for each new track. Just went through that. All right, this one here we just did. Essentially, the takes will be contained within the track alternative. So let's keep it moving, right? Okay, packing regions into take folders. Let's check this out. You can select multiple regions and pack them all into a single take folder. Each region appears as an individual take in the resulting take folder. Note the following when packing regions into a take folder. If the selected regions are located on different tracks, the newly created take folder is placed on the topmost track. That's kind of like my screen here. You can see that there are some tracks that have been left behind. That's simply because they maneuvered themselves. They navigated up here. This may change the playback result because the take folder uses a single channel strip, whereas previously the tracks may have used different channel strips. So this is an interesting thing to even distinguish. I guarantee you at some point there was a Logic user somewhere in the world. They probably used unpack. They thought they wanted to use the other feature. They didn't know and they got confused. And then, of course, they're thinking Logic has a bug or something like that. So there it is right there. If the selected regions are placed one after the other on a single track, the newly created take folder defaults to one automatically created comp. Cool. If only one region is packed into a take folder, it is selected as the take and no comp is created. Okay, let's check that out really quick. We just have one pack take folder. That's the comp, right? There's no take unless you want to select silence, which they didn't mention there. Okay, we just did that. All right, fantastic. So there are some little gems in there. I know for sure when I first started, I would poke at these menus and I'd try and figure out the details, like how exactly was I going to learn, like what was what. The only thing that we have not brought out to the surface is the difference between exporting the active comp to a new track and moving the active comp. If I instantiate an EQ, and let me delete all this so that we're looking at the information straight. If I export, you can see that I still have an EQ instantiated. And if I go into the move command, we still have an EQ. So I thought maybe, right, the processing wouldn't be there, but that's not what happened. So Let's move on into using loops and other media. We have already covered this. Again, the user guide will repeat itself at times. I will quickly go through this just in case there's a gem or two, which we know that this happens a lot with this user guide. It just like comes out of nowhere. So let's go ahead and dissect this a little bit, and we will go from there. All right. Logic Pro comes with a large collection of pre-recorded loops, offering a great starting point for many of your projects. Let's see here. You can start composing a song by dragging Apple loops from the loop browser. Of course, you don't have to write an entire song using loops. This could just be something that you're adding on. Combining existing loops and other media files. We can use samples. We can use movies and use the audio. We can extract the audio. There's a lot you can do here. Provides a quick method for laying down project foundations. Let's keep it going here. Okay, so this is what the loop browser looks like. I know this is 101 for some of you, but again, still good to look at. Let's see if we can bring out some gems here. All right, we know that the audio browser is responsible for housing the audio files inside of Logic Pro. In other words, when you record something or you drag something in, it pops up inside of the project audio bin and remains in there until you delete it. Okay, to the right of the project browser, we have the All Files browser. Now, what's this? This is used to import files and search for files in other places, other drives. You can create bookmarks. We're essentially talking about importing data into the current session. Let's say last week you were in a session and you just wrote the hardest 808. It was just like an impeccable sound. The punch was there, delivery was there, and all you wanted to do was take that channel strip from your session. If you utilize the All Files browser, you can locate the file in question, and after you do that, then you could import the project settings, or if you just wanted the channel strip, or if you just wanted, forget about the MIDI region that you wrote with it, but you just wanted the channel strip, the plugins that you were utilizing, you can do that too. So again, you would have to, here we go. You would have to go here, click on the All Files browser. The key command for that is F, and then switch the tab over, and then you have various menus. Right, here's your computer, here's home, and then here's bookmark, and we'll get into that as we go along here. Let's keep going into this manual. Okay, so now it looks like they're going into dragging in loops. For that, I'm going to share, and we're going to look at the Apple Loop browser just a little bit tighter. All right. So if you've never used loops, I know there's people out there that actually even haven't. I was surprised to discover this a couple years ago. I would start having clinics and seminars, and people would just say, I'd never used loops before. It was just something I didn't even think about, right? And so this can be an absolute game changer, and at the very least, these can be placeholders that you can utilize to just keep the song and keep the momentum going. I just got back from a session. This is why I'm doing this live a little bit later tonight. I'm usually on much earlier, 6 days a week, covering the Logic user guide and tutorial. And I put so many placeholders because I knew we were going to replace the sounds. We had a riser that I put in there, and I wanted to make sure that we just had something fixed. A symbol that didn't really work, but it was just something that I needed really quick to remind myself when I get into that next session. So use loops and samples accordingly, okay? All right, let's check it out. Apple loops are pre-recorded musical phrases or riffs in the loop browser. Let me bring you back in. Okay, you can easily add rhythm, melodies, other sounds. These loops contain musical patterns that can be repeated over and over. All right, so these are called loops. I will sift through this since we've been through this before. When you add a loop, a region is created for the loop. So any loop inside of, in fact, let me delete this here now that we're kind of changing into a new lane, right? If I bring this in, it's going to create a new region. This region is contained inside of this track. This track corresponds to the left channel strip inspector. Okay, so that's what we're looking at here. In other words, if I bring the volume down here, you can see that that movement is being mirrored here. Now, guess what? If I open up the mixer, we have the same corresponding track. If I bring down the volume, you can see that all three now have been brought down. All right, what else does the Logic User Guide have for us here? Now, one of the beautiful things about utilizing these loops is that they're going to allow you to play in different tempos. So you can see here on the right hand side in the loop browser that a lot of these were recorded in different tempos, right? 90, 135, and regardless of which tempo they were recorded, they are processed in such a way where basically they'll adjust to your fancy. So if you're like, hey, I want this to be slower, so here's the original, and you just decide, nah, this is going to be at 90 beats per minute, right? Same thing. You can go up. It would change it there. If we're utilizing MIDI, the same happens here, right? This is a MIDI region now as opposed to audio. So we'll press play. And then again, I'll change the tempo so it's a lot slower. All right, so that's all basic stuff. The only thing that doesn't change in a Logic project is the mode. So for example, I can bring in a loop, and just because I change it from a C minor to it, it's not going to change the actual notes inside of here. So I just want to be clear about that. Let's see. There are 4 types of Apple loops. We've talked about this extensively. We have audio loops. Okay. Then we have software instrument, which are green. And here we can actually edit. So basically the difference between audio and MIDI is the flexibility. There are some things that audio can do that MIDI cannot do, and there are some things that MIDI can do that audio simply cannot. And we'll cover that in more detail, but essentially they both have their advantages. I know producers that work exclusively in audio. They literally drag everything in and they're amazing. I know people that are more, purist, and all they do is what they want to play everything in, whether they're recording it in. They don't want to drag anything in. They want to be the ones performing, whether it's MIDI or audio. There's no right or wrong. It's about finding your way of doing this. We really have to find your system, the way that you go about it, because when you do, you are going to hit a stride and then nothing will stop you. It's just a matter of finding how you do it. This is how I did it. Landed a bunch of head composer jobs, working with various companies all over the world. It's great. You can do it too. You just got to find your rhythm. Okay. So, and just to make this a quick, obvious point, with audio, I cannot change the literal pitch of this, at least not in a natural way. Whereas with MIDI, I mean, just right away, we can change the length. Right? Let me turn MIDI off. We could change the position. Where it is left and right. We can also, play with the MIDI. So there's a lot that we can do here. There's a lot we can do by way of flexibility. And so we just want to make sure that we learn both of the methodologies. And this is on a case-by-case basis. You may be somebody that only uses audio loops for your beats because, I don't know, it's too complicated for you to write beats. Or you just you like the stuff that Cymatics is using or something like that. That's a plugin or a sample company. So that's cool. That's your workflow, or at least that's the workflow that you're currently utilizing. All right. But again, if you want the ultimate level of flexibility, MIDI is really where it's at. This is really an opportunity to change the scales. Did you guys know we have scale quantize in the piano roll editor? So for example, if you thought, let's play this back really quick. I'll drop the volume. You thought, wow, I really wish this was in a different key. And maybe I want this to be in a natural minor scale. So all of this is available here inside of the piano roll editor, where you can't really make those kinds of decisions. Of course, the argument becomes, well, I can use Melodyne or I can use Flex Pitch, but it really is not the same thing, right? We're not really comparing apples to apples at this point. We're just comparing two different modalities. But these are the primary tracks in Logic. Of course, we all know that we have drummer and now new to 10.6 pattern loops as well. But they really both fall under MIDI at the end of the day. So we really have these two major formats. Okay, we know that we can play with the drummer loop, play with the parameters, and same goes for the step sequencer. We have an entire section on this, so we're not going to cover those details. But it says here you can add pattern loops to software instrument tracks and also convert them to audio loops by adding them to audio tracks. So that's kind of cool to think about. If I ever wanted to convert a MIDI track into audio, all you got to do is bring it into an audio track and it burns it. Now, conversely, if I want to bring an audio track into MIDI, it simply tells you, no, you cannot do this, right? And so that's not the same thing. But to their point, if you wanted to take a pattern loop, you can, in fact, instantiate it inside of a software instrument track, because remember what I told you, it is MIDI. Check this out. So it's taking the pattern that was pre-configured, pre-made, and it's just using this software instrument, which is a guitar. Now we know also, because this is MIDI, that we could just change this instrument and just try, I don't know, let's try out Battery by Native Instruments. This is a great way to experiment if you ever just want to try some ideas out, right? Just take an existing MIDI region, a pattern loop, and just try different instruments and see what it sounds like. You'd be surprised. You may get something really good, something that sounds really interesting, really dynamic. Okay, so let's go ahead and try a Battery out. Let me pull up a kit. All right, let's see what this sounds like. You see what I'm doing? I'm just taking their information and just applying a kit. Like even that right there, right? Let's say I was to filter this out and make it sound a bit more creepy. Check it out. So that sounds pretty interesting. I'll probably compress it a little harder. All right, cool. And then we can start to add a kick or something. Let me go ahead and pull something up in here. Let me go into that. I really like these kicks by a company called TRK. Have you guys heard of them? TRK, really, really amazing. Just magical, fat kicks. They just blast. Check it out. They're part of Reactor. Reactor's a synth, well, way more than a synth. But it's by Native Instruments, such a beast. There's just so many options these days. I like to keep it as simple as possible. Once I find something that I like and it suits kind of the project and what I'm up to, then I just use it pretty much religiously. So here's TRK. If you're looking for a beautiful kick sound that is reliable and works all the time, check it out. But here, check this out. All right, so I'll do that again. This time I'll audition a couple of these drummer loops and I'll drag not into the MIDI region, but I'll drag them into the audio region. Let's see if we can find something interesting. So I'll press play and then I'll click here. But the way I'm going to do this is a little different, okay? So right now, key focus is around the tracks area. If I hit tab, the focus now goes from the tracks area to the loop browser. Okay, you can see that basically there's a text box that's highlighting drummer, right? Yeah, you guys see it. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is press play, hit spacebar, and then use my arrow keys to sift through all the loops. All right, let's check it out. So play, spacebar, arrow keys. Okay, so we can see that this is a drummer track, but we dragged it into an audio track, and now we got this. So that's kind of the magic of this, is how quickly you can work and you can start drafting ideas. So it says here that pattern loops can be edited just like any other regions, but the notes themselves can be edited only in the step sequencer. So if you want to edit in the new pattern format, you have to do it inside of the sequencer. In other words, let me pull these up. These are really rad. If you haven't checked these out, please take some time. This is like my favorite beat of all time now. Check it out. It's solo. Shift spacebar, play to selection. Okay, so you guys hear this beat, right? Let's say that I wanted to convert this to MIDI and I just want to completely butcher this. Now we're hearing this. And then we go back, we say, I actually want to convert back to pattern. I don't see an option to do that. So it looks like we can only go one way right now. But of course, if we always hit Command Z, that we can go back. But it doesn't seem like we can convert back and forth. I don't see the option here. Let me go to, yeah, you see, you don't see it here as well. Yeah, you cannot convert to pattern. But if you are in pattern, you can convert to MIDI. The same, I believe, goes for drummer. We should check that behavior out really quick. So let's get out of here. We'll bring in a drummer. Here is the part. Key Command E drops the drummer editor. Control click, convert to MIDI. But here it looks like we can convert back to drummer. So there's a couple laws there. Again, not necessarily overlooked, but maybe if you're new, you don't know about this. So again, you can convert this to MIDI, but you cannot convert back to pattern. So that's really a funny game that they're playing there. It would be cool if you could take this pattern, for example, let me turn these off. Take this pattern and create a pattern format, but it doesn't look like we can do that. But that would be nice. And so let's put in our request to make sure that we get that taken care of. So let's see here. We can find loops, right? We can sift through instrument, genre. Of course, we want to make sure that they fit the vibe of your project. Play these loops, add loops to the project. You can also create a selection of your favorite loops, create your own loops. How do you create your own loop? Literally just drag this in here. How do you think I created the TRK MIDI loops that are inside of my loop browser right now, right? I selected the appropriate track, in this case, as I said, TRK, and then literally just grabbed this MIDI region, which, by the way, if we zone in on it and I hover over the bottom right of the region, guess what? This is a perfect 1 bar 0 0 0. What does that mean? Bar beat division tick. So then now I can take this, drag it inside. We get this dialog window, which allows us to create metadata for this loop so that when you do sift through it, I write a lot of music in the world of TV. If I type in tension, I got some stuff waiting for me. Okay, check it out. Right, here's a tension topper. These are things that I've made in different formats, pattern, MIDI, right? So that's great stuff. What else we got here? Opening up the loop browser, that's the key command O, guys. Just keep that moving, right? You should have these basic key commands set up. We know there's a way to look at the loop browser. You can use these 2 columns. In fact, let me go ahead and close the inspector. Let me go back to my macro view by hitting Z. And let's go ahead and just click there. And if I click on the right icon, you can see that there's another way to sift through the 27,000 loops, over 26,000 inside of Logic. So let's say you already have your favorites and you want to listen to just the accordions. So this has some benefit if you've done some of the work, but really probably the best way to look at it is like this, unless you just need your eyes to look at it a little bit differently. So again, we'll hit the right column and let's say we're looking for instruments and I'm looking for particularly ambient instruments. It says, hey, you have 4 acoustic guitars, you've got 2 arrhythmic components, 1 cheerful. What's this one? I'm curious. I don't know who created the meta tag for that one. This is definitely stock. But that I would not say that that's a cheerful sound. At least it's not to me, but that's just me. Okay, so again, 2 different ways to look at the menu sets. You've got the newer way, and then this kind of looks like a bit more of a traditional kind of column, right? Here are all my moods. Let's say arrhythmic is a mood. I didn't know that was a mood. Arrhythmic, right? All effects, ambient. Okay. So you understand that. Something that we should throw out there is that let's say you select in this view, and what are the proper names here? You have the button view and the column view. So let me go ahead and highlight that so we can address these properly. I do take pride in doing my best to call everything in the GUI what it was intended to be called. So again, the buttons view and column view. So in the buttons view, if I click on something inside of an instrument and I start searching for, let's say, electric pianos, well, 2 things happen. Number one, the obvious, looking at all electric pianos, and because in this menu item I have everything enabled, we're looking for everything, guys. Audio, MIDI, pattern, and drummer. But check this out. Another thing that happens is that this X kind of shows up and you're like, well, what is this? And so then let's say maybe, I don't know, you forget about it, you start editing, and then you're like, okay, now I want to bring in a synthesizer. Well, you're still kind of stuck in this menu, and the only way to backtrack and go back to the higher top level folder, if you will, is to click on that X, and then now you've reset the menu in advance. Do me a favor, if you're having problems with your loop browser, I told this to one of my clients once and it worked like a charm. Go into the loop packs, click there, and re-index all your loops. Maybe you deleted some a long time ago, maybe you lost some, whatever the case may be. This will kind of start everything all over again, kind of back to square one. All right, let's keep going here. We know that we have loop packs inside of the loop browser. These are so helpful. Let me bring up some reggaeton. What was the name? I forgot the. Hold on, I gotta remember this now. We got chill wave, Chinese traditional. These are sick. Edges and angles. They started creating these new themes in the latest version. I've never heard these names. Prismatica, right? It sounds like something Machine would do. Here's just the step sequencer. What is going on? Where's all the Latin stuff? Oh, there it is right there. Gozadera Latina. But let me just check out the step sequencer. Okay, so this is all stuff in the step sequencer. All right, let's go back to the Latin music here. Let me go ahead, delete everything on screen. Let's cleanse our palette, if you will, here. All right, and let's listen to the. All right, good. Let me slow down this tempo. I'll click and drag down. So there's a couple different ways to change that if you wanted to. And then shift spacebar. After you've selected region, we'll play the selection. All right, good. So I'm going to hit Command R, and that kind of allows me to move quickly. So again, we've talked about selecting loops, looking through all the various filter, clearing the recent search terms. That's all very fluid, very clean. How do we actually play these loops? We know that we can search for them. How do we actually play them? Well, let's get into it. You can listen to the results to find the loop that best fits your project. When you listen to a loop, you can hear it by itself, or you can play it together with the project. All right. So how do we do this? Select the loop in the search results list. The loop plays back in the project's tempo and key. This is, well, unless they're going to state it after the fact, this is only if in the action gear menu down here, bottom left, you select play in song key. Because if you don't, irregardless of what key you have this set to, or it is set to for you, because normally it's set to C, then it's not going to matter. So you have to have this enabled, and I believe it is on by default, but you should definitely check. You could see that when I change the BPM, so does the song. Okay, now let's see if this is true for the key, shall we? So let's do something drastic so we can really hear a difference. Now I've noticed this sometimes takes a second. So this is a great way to test this out, right? If you just want to get a sense of, or maybe you have a singer or you're a singer and you just want to try it out in different keys, right? Let's go back up. Here's, let's go A. So it's not going faster. I just want to be clear. Tempo is the same. We're just changing the key. All right, so it's as simple as that. For those of you that are a little bit more technical, if I go to the key command D, you can see that inside of my signature, we can also control the key here. Okay, so for example, if we now go to C, it also changes inside of the LCD screen. Again, it's not playing faster, it's just a higher pitch, so sometimes it comes across as sounding faster, but it's not. And then let's say you wanted a key change. Okay, here's bar 12. I'm going to hit this plus symbol. And it looks like it's giving me a change, but not a key change. So how do we actually change the key? Again, let's try it again. Right, I'm just going to hit, you would assume, let's hit plus. Oops. All right, so this is kind of this is why you're here, to be honest. Because there's just little things that come up that may not even be in the manual. For example, if I go into the global markers, I mean, seriously, wait for it. I'm going to have to resize signature. Okay, and then look what happens, guys. This is insane that this is just not an obvious concept, right? So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the channel. This is what we're all about. We want to demystify it. We want to make it easy. Right? How come we just can't change the key at bar 12? Why is it not that simple? Well, I'm going to quest to change that. Some of you know I work with LearnQuest, who's an Apple training provider, and I'm just climbing the ranks, and I'm getting there. I got a lot of good news. I got a lot of good stories to tell you, but let's stay on this. I don't want to get off track. So I'm going to go ahead and select the pencil tool. All right, so follow me here, follow me. Take notes if you don't have your laptop or desktop near you. And then now, by clicking one time, bar 12, bear in mind I have my snap to grid mode. You got this is my curriculum. This is how I teach it. You have to follow and adhere to the snap to grid in order to really get this. Once I click inside of the signature lane in the global tracks, my good friends, here I can finally change the key. Now I believe it should be 50 times easier. That's just the way that I know this to be true. It should not have to be that complicated, right? I believe that one and one should make two. It doesn't have to, right, be that wild. I'm gonna hit OK, right? You can see that now it decided to change the value. So maybe there's something else there. Let me go ahead and yeah, it just doesn't seem as simple. Maybe I'll click here. There's nothing. Yeah, there's no way I can change it inside of the signature, inside of the editors. So anyway, let me go back to changing this key. Let's do F. Again, the modes are not going to matter. It's good to set it, but it's not going to change the actual mode. So then now it's F minor. And so then the question becomes, if I copy these over, my good friends, what happens? All right, remember these are in C, and then I'll go ahead and color this marker just so that we're in the now. I don't know if it colored it. Boom. Oh, it's not coloring because of, I could be wrong about this, but let me just, there's just so many little details. I don't know if it's this or not. We shall see. Usually these markers will color right away. I'll try one more time, and if not, we're moving on. Nope. Okay. All right. Oh, I guess because it's not an actual marker. So you can actually color these markers, but not the signature markers. Okay, let's keep going. So let's play this out. So what happened? Why no key change, right? This is something that is interesting to look at. Why didn't it go from C to F? So this is something that needs to be thought about. Does this not control the actual, right, pitch? Is this something that's not actually occurring? Well, let's do some tests. This is why we're here. If I go into the transposition lane, which again, I've never heard anybody talk about this, and I start to create a transposition of 3 semitones. So this time I'll delete this because we can hear that it's not working. So theoretically, this should go up by 3 semitones. We're going to listen from the top so we can let our ears adapt. Here we go. And by the way, let me go ahead and get rid of some of these menu sets. I know that, especially when I first started, I was visually quite overwhelmed. Okay, so all right, so now we're just bringing up the transpose lane. Here we go. Okay, so therein lies the secret right there. It doesn't have to be that confusing so long as you know what to look for. If you want to transpose your entire track, this would include MIDI. I don't really know if it includes drums. I mean, it's a test that you can run later if you want, as they're, non-tonal, but I'm sure if you go up high enough, it will change the drums. In fact, wait, I have a beat right here. Let me just play it here really quick. So you can hear that the drums have not been transposed at all. Let me go up 5 semitones, okay? Although if we bring in the piano chords, it will sound a little bit different, right? Let's check it out. Remember, it started off like this. So this is a really cool composition and arrangement technique. I really want you to keep it in the back of your hand. I know that this is not necessarily what we're covering inside of this, guys, but you can see the relevance in terms of loops, audio, how do things change. Now, I want to run one more test before we call it a day. I'm just doing this impromptu. In other words, I'm just finding relevant ways to kind of tell a story, if you will. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring up some MIDI loops really quick. All right. But here's the bottom line. As you tune in, I guarantee you the value will always be there because this program never ends. I've been studying it for 7 years. I've read every book that you can possibly think of. I've learned from the best of the best, the people that literally wrote the books on this program. And it's been an absolute honor. And to be honest, it's an honor to be here. I just want to give you the information that you need to succeed. I'm looking for the next Mozart. I'm looking for the next Jay-Z. I'm looking for the next, right? That's part of my purpose. It's why I get up, because I know that you're out there and we're going to get you. And when you do, you're going to make sure that you cut us a 10% check. No, I'm just kidding. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and play this out. We're looking at the transposition feature. I'm going to play it once over, okay? And then basically, once it gets to this section, it should clearly go up. I just want to make sure I get this edit right. Hold on, doesn't look clean. I'm at bar 12 here. All right, sweet. So this is up significantly. So we should be able to hear this pretty clean. Yeah, here we go. All right, now I'm going to do a really drastic change so we can really hear the difference. Let me Command Z that, bring this all the, geez, why is this acting like that? All right, let's try this out one more time. So we can see now clearly that this is transposing MIDI, it's transposing audio, but only of a melodic quality. One more test. We're going to bring in some MIDI drums. We want to know if it's actually changing the pitch. Why? Why do all this work? Because when you have clarity, you finally have peace of mind. I can't tell you the difference that it's made to be aware, to be in the know about this program. Guys, I've done so much. So happy about living a life of music, living a life of my dreams. It means everything to me. I'm so happy about it. And I want you to experience your version of that, whatever that is. So let's go ahead. Let's get into a MIDI beat. I'm just looking for something here. I see plucks. I see mallets, but we don't want percussion. I want an actual MIDI beat. So we got to get out of here. Let's go to all packs again. Let's make this easy. Geez, okay, let's just type in beat. Yeah, this is good. Okay, Command R. Let's go. All right, so there it is right there. The research is in front of you. You do not have to question it now. I would probably run a couple more tests just to, just to make sure I'm not doing any magic tricks over here. You guys think that I would do that. But here's the deal. If it's non-tonal, non-melodic, it is not transposing. If you really want to be crystal clear about this, bring in a percussion. All right, here we go. You should hear it right away. I'm going down by 12 semitones, right? It's a lot. All right, so I rest my case. All right, so now we're understanding that we can change the key, but only if we use the, wait, that's not it. We can change the key, but it's an absolute value. So if like it's in the key of C and then you try and create a key change, it doesn't follow it. We tried that methodology, it didn't work. Okay? If you want to change the key, you're going to have to effectively, of the loops and everything, right, together, you're going to have to use the transpose lane inside of the key command G global tracks. Okay, there it is right there. All right. This next section starts to talk to you about some of the behaviors inside of the loop browser. For example, the action gear menu allows you to play the song in key or not. So you can actually play it in the original key. I just leave it defaulted personally. It looks like if you want everything to play in just the key of F, you can do that as well. All right, good. I'm able to preview using the preview button here. There's actually a key command for this as well inside of the key command window, option K. What is this? Preview, toggle cycle preview. I think I have it as control C, and it could be one of these as well. Let me just make sure. Yeah. So I have mine set up as control option command. But this is not a default command. It's just something that I like. Okay, control option command spacebar. Okay. So again, depending on how you want to listen to this, do me a favor, leave on this auto leveling feature. It's really cool. I don't know if they're gonna cover it here. Let's see. In fact, let's read some of this behavior. To play a loop in the project key, you're going to want to choose that. To play it in the original key, choose that. And then a specific key, we can select the key here. Okay. So there's something new. I'm not sure if this is new to 10.6, but I personally have not seen it. It says mirror the selected filter settings in the Logic Remote app. The Logic Remote app can mirror the filter settings selected in the Logic Pro loop browser. So this only applies to you if you have the app. If you haven't downloaded it, it's free. It's fantastic. Please do so. So then it says you can also use the Logic Remote app to change the filter settings. In Logic, choose the link filter settings to Logic Remote in the action pop-up menu. So this is down here. What is that going to do? You can also change filter settings in Logic Remote to revert to Logic Remote, showing all available loops regardless of the filter settings. Okay, so essentially the behavior that you see here, right? You see how Logic is sifting through all the various plugins when I'm using filters. It's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's finding it's filtering down your options. So if we start with 6,000 loops and I select the electric piano and then I select hip hop, we're now down to just 2 items. And so this right here changes the behavior of how Logic Remote looks for and sifts through those settings. Okay, let's go into auto leveling and we'll call it a day. By default, Logic Pro automatically adjusts the volume level of Apple loops so they play back at the optimum level. This is fantastic. I don't know who created this, but cheers. When previewed in the loop browser or added to a project, this ensures that the loop volume is neither too quiet nor so loud that it clips the output. This adjustment is non-destructive, right? You can always go back. For blue Apple loops, the region gain parameter in the region inspector is adjusted. For MIDI, which is green and yellow, the track volume is adjusted. Wow. Amazing. It's AI figuring out how loud your songs should be. I don't know what it's based on. I don't know if it's based on the mix, the RMS meters, pre-fader metering. I mean, there's so many possibilities. It says, hey, if you don't want to do this, just deselect it and you're all good. I love this feature. It's grand. It's excellent. Any loops already placed in the tracks here are not affected by auto leveling feature. Okay, this is really quick. If you want to access your favorite loops, I've already done this in advance. I have not done this for version 10.6, but I did it for version 10.5. They're always adding new loops. If you click on the heart, you can see that I've selected all of my favorite loops. So here's the deal. Here's how you want to do this. You should start from scratch, obviously, from the top. But let's say we're writing a song and you're like, man, I really need to find an organ. Well, if I find an organ and I don't have these favorited, I still have to look through 262 loops in the world of the organ. But if I, again, take the time, I favorite everything, then I turn on my favorites, or I click on this column, it basically will bring up all of my favorited sounds, and more likely than not, they're gonna work. And so this is a great way to expedite your workflow. But again, it's gonna cost you a little something up front, so that on the back end you can work in a really nice and clean way. Okay, so we can search for loops inside of here. Easy stuff. We can add loops to the. Okay, good. And you know what? From here, I'm going to call it, because it looks like there's a lot more information. All right. It has been an awesome Friday. I'm so excited about continuing to cover this program and just covering some real world application. I thank you for our time together. This has been excellent. My name is Eddie Gray, Apple certified T3 Logic trainer. There's only a couple of us in the entire world, so super stoked about being able to give you what I can. I know it's going to make the difference. It's just a matter of you applying yourself and taking the steps necessary to really get there. So I'm going to sign off. If you like the content, go ahead and share. Go ahead and sub. Go ahead and smash that like button. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Namaste. Take good care of yourselves. I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.